Dr. Lisa Barnes couldn't take her eyes off the screen. The patterns didn't make sense, yet they were too regular to be random. She brushed her graying hair from her face and leaned closer to the quantum computer's display in the dimly lit lab of Luna Base Alpha. "Dr. Rogers, you need to see this," she called out to her colleague who was dozing in the corner chair. The clock showed 3:27 a.m. Earth Standard Time, but on the moon, time felt different. The quantum readings showed something unprecedented, waves of information traveling faster than light, carrying what appeared to be thoughts and emotions rather than conventional data. For 3 days straight, these patterns had been appearing with increasing frequency. Meanwhile, 200 million kilometers away, Major Kevin Wright led his squadron of 6 Raptor-class space fighters on what should have been a routine patrol near Neptune's orbit. The endless block of space stretched before them, broken only by the distant sparkle of stars. "Control, this is Raptor Lead. All clear in Sector 7, he reported, his voice steady despite the growing boredom of another uneventful patrol. That's when everything changed. The void ahead of them rippled, like heat waves over hot asphalt. His sensors screamed to life, warning lights flooding his cockpit red. "All units, combat formation Delta." He barked into his comm. The ripples grew larger, and space itself seemed to tear open. Through the tear came ships. Dozens, then hundreds of them. They were beautiful in a terrifying way. Sleek vessels that seemed to flow like liquid metal, their hulls shimmering with an iridescent purple glow. "Control, we have multiple contacts. I repeat, multiple unknown contacts." Wright's heart pounded as he watched more ships emerge, numbers exceeding. God, there must be over 1,000 of them. Back at Luna Base, Dr. Barnes's quantum readings suddenly spiked off the charts. Her head exploded with sensation. Not pain, but a presence. Thoughts that weren't her own flooded her mind. "We come in peace, but with purpose." The message wasn't in English or any human language. It was pure concept, transmitted directly into her consciousness. Dr. Rogers grabbed his head too, experiencing the same phenomenon. Across Earth and its colonies, millions of people simultaneously received the same message. The Meridians had arrived. Earth's military response was immediate. Defense platforms activated, and the United Earth Defense Force went to high alert. But the aliens made no aggressive moves. Instead, they established a position just beyond Mars' orbit and waited. In the following hours, Dr. Barnes found herself at the center of history. The quantum patterns she'd been studying were the key to understanding the aliens' primary form of communication: telepathic broadcasts through quantum entanglement. The first official contact happened in the lunar conference chamber. Dr. Barnes sat beside Admiral Susan Martinez and other Earth officials as the Meridian representatives entered. They were tall, humanoid beings with silvery skin and eyes that seemed to contain swirling galaxies. "Your species intrigues us," the lead Meridian spoke aloud, though their thoughts echoed in everyone's minds simultaneously. "You've achieved so much without the basic gift of mental communication. It's quite primitive, yet remarkable." Admiral Martinez kept her composure, though Dr. Barnes could see her jaw tighten at the word primitive. "We appreciate your interest in our civilization," Martinez responded diplomatically. "Though I'm curious why you've chosen this moment to reveal yourselves." The Meridian's expression shifted in a way that seemed almost like pity. "We've observed your quantum computing experiments. You're approaching a dangerous threshold. Without proper guidance, you risk touching the galactic consciousness unprepared. The results would be unfortunate." Dr. Barnes leaned forward. "The patterns I've been recording, they're part of this galactic consciousness. Yes, all advanced species share in the universal mental network. It is how we maintain peace and order across the galaxy. Your isolation from it is why we've considered your species too primitive for contact, until now." Major Wright, who had been invited to the meeting as the first human to encounter the Meridian ships, spoke up. "You're saying every advanced civilization can read minds. Such a crude way to describe it. The Meridian thought spoke. We share consciousness, instantaneous communication across any distance, perfect understanding between all beings. It is the foundation of civilized existence. The implications hit Dr. Barnes like a physical force. Humanity wasn't just technologically behind. They were missing what these aliens considered a fundamental aspect of intelligent life. Her quantum readings hadn't been detecting random patterns. They had been picking up fragments of a galaxy-wide conversation that humans couldn't hear. The meeting continued for hours. The Meridians explained their role as guardians of the galactic consciousness, how they monitored developing species and helped guide them toward proper integration with the greater community of minds. But something felt off. Dr. Barnes noticed how the Meridians spoke of humanity, not as equals, but as children needing supervision. Their offers of help carried an undertone of control. After the meeting, she pulled Admiral Martinez aside. "They're afraid," Barnes whispered. Martinez raised an eyebrow. "Of us? Why would they fear a primitive species?" "Because we've achieved space travel, quantum computing, and advanced civilization without their precious mental network. We're an anomaly. And my research." Barnes paused, choosing her words carefully. "I think we might be able to access their network on our own terms, not theirs." The Admiral's eyes narrowed as she understood the implications. "Keep working on it," she said quietly. "But be discreet. I don't trust their benevolent guardian act." That night, as Dr. Barnes returned to her lab, she felt the weight of humanity's future on her shoulders. The Meridians' arrival had changed everything, but not in the way they intended. Instead of accepting their guidance, she was more determined than ever to crack the code of mental communication. As she worked late into the lunar night, Major Wright's squadron maintained a careful watch on the Meridian fleet. The aliens claimed to come in peace, but Earth's military remained vigilant. Humanity had just discovered it wasn't alone in the universe, and more importantly, that it was considered developmentally disabled by its new neighbors. But if there's one thing humans had proven throughout their history, it was their ability to adapt, to overcome limitations that others thought impossible. The Meridians had revealed their greatest advantage, and in doing so, had given humanity its next great challenge to overcome. As the first day of contact drew to a close, Dr. Barnes made a breakthrough in her calculations. She smiled as she reviewed the data. The Meridians thought humans needed centuries of guidance to access the galactic consciousness. She was about to prove them wrong. Little did the Meridians know, their arrival had set in motion events that would shake the very foundation of their galactic order. Humanity was about to show the galaxy why underestimating Earth was a dangerous mistake. The first contact was complete, but it was only the beginning. The real story was just about to unfold, and it would change the galaxy forever. Dr. Barnes worked through another sleepless night at Luna Base Alpha, her eyes burning from staring at screens filled with complex quantum equations. Next to her, Dr. Peter Collins adjusted the neural interface prototype attached to a test simulation. "The quantum patterns are stabilizing," Collins said, his voice carrying a mix of excitement and exhaustion. "We might actually pull this off." 3 months had passed since first contact with the Meridians. While Earth's governments publicly welcomed their alien visitors and accepted their offers of guidance, a secret project had been running beneath the lunar surface. The goal: developing humanity's own path to accessing the galactic psychic network. The prototype looked deceptively simple, a thin band of quantum-sensitive material that could be worn around the head. But its complexity lay in the millions of nanoscale processors that could sync with human brainwaves and convert them into quantum signals. "Ready for another test?" Dr. Barnes asked, picking up the prototype. Collins nodded, starting the recording equipment. She placed the band around her head and closed her eyes. At first, there was nothing but the usual darkness behind her eyelids. Then, like tuning into a radio station, she began to sense something. Whispers, fragments of thoughts, emotions that weren't her own. "I'm getting something," she whispered. "It's clearer than last time. I can almost..." Wait. Her eyes snapped open, They know. The alarm klaxons began blaring throughout the base. Up in lunar orbit, Major Wright's squadron scrambled to intercept 3 Meridian vessels approaching without clearance. This is Earth Defense Force to approaching vessels. You are entering restricted space. Hold position. The response came as a sharp pain in everyone's minds. Your attempts to access the network without proper evolution are forbidden. Cease immediately. Admiral Martinez rushed into the Lunar Command Center, her uniform hastily donned. Status report. 3 Meridian ships violated our space. They're demanding we shut down all quantum research facilities, her aide reported. They're threatening military action if we don't comply. Martinez's face hardened. Get me a direct line to their command ship. The main screen lit up with the image of a Meridian commander, their silvery skin seeming to ripple with barely contained anger. Your species was warned. The network is not for the unprepared. We are conducting legitimate scientific research within our own territory, Martins replied firmly. Your threats constitute an act of aggression. You cannot comprehend the dangers. Your minds are not evolved enough to. The Meridian paused, their galaxy-filled eyes widening. You've already done it, haven't you? You've created a crude interface. Martinez kept her expression neutral, but the Meridian could sense the truth. Their voice filled everyone's minds with cold fury. You have 24 Earth hours to surrender all research and destroy your prototypes, or we will do it for you. The transmission cut off. Martinez immediately activated the base's secure channel. Dr. Barnes, how close are we? The prototype works, Admiral. Rough, but it works. We can access their network, and Barnes hesitated. We might be better at it than they are. Explain. Their psychic abilities evolved naturally over millions of years, but our brains evolved to process information differently. When we access the network artificially, we do it with the full power of human analytical thinking. We're not just receiving. We're understanding and processing faster than they can. Martinez nodded slowly. How many working prototypes can you have ready in 24 hours? Maybe 50 if we push the fabricators to their limits. Do it. Priority goes to Special Forces teams. Martinez turned to her staff. Begin evacuation of all non-essential personnel from lunar facilities and get me Earth Command. We're about to go to war. The next 24 hours were a blur of activity. Deep within the lunar base, Dr. Barnes and her team worked nonstop, producing neural interfaces and testing them on carefully selected soldiers and pilots. Each success brought both hope and worry. Hope that humanity could defend itself, worry about what would happen when the deadline expired. Major Wright was among the first to receive an interface. The sensation was unlike anything he'd experienced, suddenly being able to sense his fellow pilot's thoughts, feeling connected to something vast and ancient that spanned the galaxy. This is incredible, he said during the test flight. His squadron moved in perfect coordination, each pilot instantly knowing what the others would do. We're not just linked, we're enhanced. Dr. Barnes monitored their tests with growing optimism. The human pilots weren't just copying Meridian abilities. They were innovating, finding new ways to use the network that the aliens had never considered. Just before the deadline, Admiral Martinez gathered her command staff. The neural interfaces had been distributed to key personnel throughout Earth's defense forces. They were as ready as they could be. The Meridians think we're children playing with something we don't understand, she told them. They're about to learn that humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our weapons. It's our ability to adapt and overcome. The deadline came. The Meridian ships moved into attack position, but humanity was ready. Major Wright led the first engagement, his enhanced squadron meeting the Meridian attackers head-on. The aliens expected to face primitive ships with unconnected pilots. Instead, they met perfectly coordinated teams who could not only access the network but use it in ways the Meridians had never imagined. The battle for Luna Base had begun, and with it, humanity's fight to prove they deserved their place among the stars, not as students, but as equals. Dr. Barnes watched the space battle through both her eyes and her enhanced mind. The neural interface let her feel the determination of Earth's defenders, the shock of the Meridian attackers, and the growing realization among the aliens that they had made a terrible mistake in underestimating humanity. The war for humanity's right to access the galactic consciousness had begun, and humanity had no intention of losing. The red dust of Mars swirled outside the colony dome as Lieutenant Amy Foster and her neural-enhanced special operations team prepared for another patrol. 2 weeks had passed since the battle at Luna Base, and an uneasy quiet had settled over the solar system. Movement detected in Sector 7, reported Sergeant Paul Davis, his eyes closed as he accessed the psychic network through his neural interface. Multiple quantum signatures. They're trying to mask their presence. Foster reached out with her enhanced mind, touching the edges of the galactic consciousness. The Meridians were indeed there, their thoughts carefully shielded, but not well enough. Human minds, it turned out, were like master lockpicks, finding ways through mental defenses that the aliens thought impenetrable. They're planning something big, she sent to her team through the network. The neural interfaces had gotten better, allowing for clear communication without spoken words. Alert command. Before she could send the warning, the sky above Mars erupted with light. Hundreds of Meridian ships dropped their stealth fields, their weapons already charging. They had come for the research facilities they believed were hidden in the Martian colonies. All units, battle stations. Foster's mental command reached every enhanced soldier in the colony. This is not a drill. The Meridians had expected to find helpless researchers and civilians. Instead, they encountered humanity's first fully neural-enhanced combat force. As their ships descended toward the main colony dome, they hit the first surprise: a psychic barrier. Dr. Barnes, watching from the secure command center on Earth, allowed herself a small smile. The Meridians had never imagined using the network for defense. They saw it purely as a communication tool. But humans had already learned to create walls of pure thought, blocking both physical and mental attacks. Multiple enemy contacts, Foster reported as her team moved into position. They're trying to breach the dome's eastern sector. The Meridians landed in force, their ground troops moving with the fluid grace of their species. They carried weapons that attacked both body and mind, expecting to find humans cowering from their psychic assault. Instead, Foster's team met them head-on. The neural interfaces didn't just let humans access the network, they let them weaponize it. Each enhanced soldier could predict enemy movements, coordinate perfectly with their teammates, and even project false thoughts to confuse the attackers. Squad 3, flank left, Foster commanded silently. Squad 2, prepare the psychic pulse. The battle for Mars Colony 1 became a fight unlike any in human history. Physical weapons mixed with mental warfare as both sides tried to gain the upper hand. The Meridians found their own tactics being used against them, enhanced by human creativity and adaptability. Back on Earth, Dr. Barnes worked frantically with her team to support the defenders. Their neural patterns are changing, she noted, watching the data streams. They're trying to adapt to our methods. But the Meridians had spent too long relying on their natural abilities. They couldn't match the speed at which humans were evolving their use of the network. Every time they developed a new defense, the human forces found 3 ways around it. Foster led her team through the colony's maintenance tunnels, using their enhanced abilities to stay one step ahead of the enemy. The Meridians were searching for research facilities that didn't exist. The real laboratories had been moved to secret locations weeks ago. They're frustrated, Davis reported, sensing the enemy's emotional state. They can't understand how we're doing this. The battle raged for hours. The Meridians, despite their superior numbers, found themselves constantly outmaneuvered. Human soldiers could now share targeting data instantly, coordinate complex attacks without speaking, and even project false sensor readings to confuse enemy ships. Foster's team reached a crucial junction where Meridian forces had breached the colony's outer wall. Now, she commanded. The human defenders triggered their newest weapon, a concentrated burst of psychic energy that overwhelmed the Meridians' natural mental defenses. The aliens reeled, their own connection to the network temporarily disrupted. In those precious seconds, Foster's forces struck. The battle turned decisively in humanity's favor. All enemy forces are retreating, Foster reported, watching through both eyes and mind as the Meridian ships fled Mars' orbit. Colony secure. The victory at Mars was more than just a successful defense. It was a statement. Humanity had taken the Meridian's greatest advantage and mastered it in weeks rather than millennia. The aliens had attacked believing they would find an easy target. They retreated knowing they had awakened a sleeping giant. Dr. Barnes reviewed the battle data with growing excitement. Each engagement teaches us more about the network, she told Admiral Martinez during the post-battle briefing. Our neural interfaces are improving exponentially. We're not just catching up to them, we're surpassing them. Martinez nodded gravely. They'll be back, and in greater numbers. This was just a probing attack. Let them come, Foster said, her neural interface humming with the shared determination of her team. Every fight makes us stronger. They've spent so long being the masters of the network that they've stopped innovating. We're just getting started. The Meridians retreated to their fleet beyond Mars' orbit, but their presence loomed over the solar system like a gathering storm. They had underestimated humanity once. They wouldn't make the same mistake again. But neither would humanity wait passively for the next attack. As Foster's team began helping to repair the colony's defenses, she could feel the growing confidence through the network. Humanity had proved it could defend itself. Soon, they would show the Meridians that they could do much more than that. The first major battle was over, but the war for humanity's place in the galactic consciousness was just beginning, and humanity was learning fast, perhaps too fast for the Meridians to handle. Colonel John Hayes stood on the bridge of the Earth battleship Orion, his neural interface connecting him to every crew member and system on the massive vessel. Around him, other ships of Earth's fleet moved into formation, their crews linked in a complex web of shared consciousness. All ships report ready, his executive officer reported both verbally and mentally. 2 months had passed since the Battle of Mars, and humanity had not been idle. Begin Operation Starburst, Hayes commanded. The order rippled through the fleet's neural network, each ship's crew instantly understanding their role in the complex battle plan. Earth's first major counteroffensive against the Meridians had begun. Instead of waiting for another attack, humanity had decided to take the fight to the enemy. Their target, the Meridian forward base in the asteroid belt. Dr. Barnes watched from the secure command center on Earth, monitoring the neural network activity. The human fleet's mental signatures were different from the Meridians, sharper, more focused, like precision instruments compared to natural formations. The Meridians are detecting our approach, she reported to Admiral Martinez, but they're confused by our neural pattern. They can't believe how much we've advanced. The Earth fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel near Ceres, where the Meridians had established their main solar system base. The alien ships rose to meet them, their commanders broadcasting thoughts of contempt and superiority across the network. Hayes smiled. The Meridians still didn't understand what they were facing. All ships, execute Pattern Delta, he commanded through the network. The human fleet split apart in a complex dance that would have been impossible without their enhanced neural coordination. The battle began with a clash of both physical and mental weapons. Meridian ships fired energy beams while trying to overwhelm human minds. But the neural interfaces had evolved, allowing humans to process and react to information faster than their alien opponents. They're trying to hack our network, reported Lieutenant Sarah Mills, the Orion's cyber warfare specialist, attempting to use their natural abilities to override our interfaces. Let them try, Hayes responded. The Meridians didn't realize that human engineers had built multiple layers of protection into their neural systems, combining the best of technological and mental defenses. The space around Ceres lit up with weapons fire and psychic energy. Human ships moved with perfect coordination, each captain knowing exactly where their allies would be. The Meridians found their traditional tactics useless against opponents who could predict their moves and counter them before they happened. Dr. Barnes watched the battle data with growing excitement. Their neural patterns are becoming erratic, she noted. They're not used to being outmaneuvered in mental warfare. The Meridian fleet's formation began to break. They had relied for so long on their natural abilities that they had never developed the discipline that humans had learned through centuries of fighting without psychic powers. Now faced with enemies who combined both mental and physical combat skills, they were falling apart. Hayes directed his ships to press the advantage. The human fleet split into smaller groups, each targeting key points in the Meridian defense. Enhanced gunners fired with impossible accuracy, their minds linked directly to their weapon systems. Meridian-based defenses are weakening, reported Commander Jack Miller from one of the attack groups. Their coordination is failing. The aliens had never imagined they could be beaten at their own game. Their entire society was built around their natural psychic abilities. The idea that humans could not only match but exceed their capabilities in mere months was shattering their confidence. Main Assault Group, target their command center, Hayes ordered. The neural network carried not just his words but his tactical intentions, allowing his ships to execute complex maneuvers without detailed explanations. The Meridian base on Ceres began to crumble under the combined assault. Their ships either fled or were disabled by precisely targeted shots. Human Marines, their minds linked in perfect combat synchronization, boarded and captured key enemy vessels. Enemy forces are in full retreat, Mills reported. They're broadcasting fear. They're actually afraid of us now. Hayes nodded, feeling the ripples of victory through the neural network. The human fleet had not just won a battle. They had demonstrated their complete mastery of both space warfare and psychic combat. Dr. Barnes quickly analyzed the captured Meridian base's data. Their entire strategy was based on the assumption that we couldn't possibly advance this quickly, she told Admiral Martinez. They have no contingency plans for facing equals or superiors in neural warfare. The victory at Ceres marked a turning point in the war. Humanity had proven they could not only defend themselves, but also take the fight to the enemy. The Meridians' belief in their inherent superiority had been shattered. As Hayes coordinated the securing of the captured base, he could sense the growing confidence of his forces through the neural network. Humanity had taken technology the Meridians thought they could control and turned it into something new and more powerful. But he also sensed something else, a gathering storm. The Meridians would not accept this defeat easily. Their main fleet would come, and the real test of humanity's new capabilities would begin. All ships begin fortification procedures, he ordered. This base is now ours, and we're going to use it to show the Meridians exactly what humanity is capable of. The counteroffensive had succeeded beyond their highest expectations, but the war was far from over. The next battle would determine not just the fate of the solar system, but humanity's place in the galactic community. And this time, they would fight it on their own terms. Admiral Susan Martinez stood in the Orion's command center, her neural interface humming with the collective thoughts of Earth's combined fleet. Behind her, the asteroid belt stretched like a river of rocks across space. Before her, the largest Meridian armada ever assembled approached Earth's solar system. They'd brought their entire home fleet, reported Dr. Barnes through the neural link. From her command post on Earth, she monitored the massive flows of psychic energy through the galactic network. Over 3,000 ships. The Meridians had finally realized the true threat humanity posed. After losing their base at Ceres, they had gathered every ship they could spare from across their territory. This would be their final attempt to put humanity back in what they considered its proper place. All ships, battle positions, Martinez commanded. The order flowed through the neural network, and Earth's fleet moved with perfect precision. Months of warfare had refined their abilities beyond anything the Meridians had thought possible. The enemy fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel in a display of overwhelming force. Their ships filled space like a swarm of angry wasps, their crews broadcasting waves of determination and superiority across the network. Surrender now. The Meridian High Commander's thoughts boomed across space. Your rapid advancement is an aberration that must be corrected. Martinez smiled. Show them our response. At her command, every human ship activated their latest innovation, a synchronized neural blast that combined the mental power of thousands of enhanced humans. The wave of focused thought slammed into the Meridian fleet like a tsunami. The aliens reeled, their natural defenses overwhelmed by the sheer intensity of human mental power. In those precious seconds of confusion, Earth's fleet struck. Fighter squadrons led by Major Wright darted between the larger ships, their pilots' enhanced minds allowing them to predict and avoid enemy fire with impossible accuracy. Larger warships under Colonel Hayes's command targeted key points in the Meridian formation, their weapons guided by the combined targeting data of entire neural-linked crews. They're trying to adapt to our attack pattern, Lieutenant Foster reported from her special operations vessel. But they can't match our processing speed. The battle spread across the asteroid belt, becoming the largest engagement in human history. But unlike traditional space combat, this was a war fought on two levels: physical space and mental space. Dr. Barnes coordinated the neural defense networks, watching as the Meridians tried desperately to break through human mental barriers. They still don't understand, she told Martinez through their private link. They think we're using their techniques. They haven't realized we've created something entirely new. The human neural interfaces had evolved far beyond simple copies of Meridian abilities. They combined human creativity, technological innovation, and natural mental power in ways the aliens had never imagined possible. Meridian ships found their psychic communications jammed by focused human thought. Their coordinated attacks fell apart as human defenders predicted and countered their moves before they could execute them. Even their advanced weapons proved less effective against ships crewed by neural-enhanced humans working in perfect unison. They're breaking formation, Hayes reported. Their command structure is falling apart. Martinez nodded. The Meridians had relied too long on their natural abilities. They had never needed to develop the discipline and adaptability that humans had learned through millennia of warfare. Now, faced with opponents who could match and exceed their mental powers while maintaining military precision, they were crumbling. All ships, execute final protocol, she commanded. The order flowed through the network, and Earth's fleet moved as one. Ships linked their mental and physical efforts, creating overlapping fields of fire while projecting waves of focused thought that disrupted Meridian coordination. The alien fleet began to retreat, first in small groups, then in larger numbers. Their mighty armada, which had arrived expecting to crush primitive upstarts, was being systematically taken apart by those same primitives. "This is impossible," the Meridian commander broadcast, his thoughts tinged with disbelief. "You cannot have mastered the network so quickly." "We didn't master it," Martins replied through the neural link. "We reinvented it. Surrender now, or we will be forced to demonstrate just how far that reinvention goes." The battle that became known as the Perfect War ended not with the destruction of the Meridian fleet, but with their surrender. Human forces had achieved what the aliens had thought impossible: complete superiority in both physical and mental combat. In the peace negotiations that followed, the Meridians were forced to acknowledge humanity as equals. More than that, they had to accept that their long-held beliefs about neural evolution and natural psychic abilities had been proved wrong. They never understood our greatest strength, Dr. Barnes told Martinez as they watched the signing of the peace treaty. They thought accessing the network was the end goal. For us, it was just the beginning. The term perfect war came not from its outcome, but from how it demonstrated humanity's perfect balance of mental and physical capabilities. In less than a year, humans had gone from being considered primitive to becoming the species that would reshape how the galaxy thought about consciousness itself. As the Meridian ships departed Earth's solar system, Martinez felt the satisfaction of her crews through the neural network. They had faced extinction and instead achieved evolution. The galaxy would never be the same. And somewhere in the vast network of galactic consciousness, other species began to take notice. Humanity hadn't just won a war. They had announced their arrival as a force that could no longer be ignored. The perfect war was over, but humanity's journey to reshape the galaxy had just begun.